you'll take a look. This was a slide from 2004. If I were to do it today, it would be even more updated. But it shows the highway in the United States called Route 66. And then we put a logo above it. And so I preached a sermon called Route 66. And in that sermon, I shared some thoughts like this. The average weekly schedule that each of us has is the same. We each have 168 hours per week. How do we spend that? Well, the average person spends 56 hours sleeping. They spend 14 hours eating. They spend 21 hours getting ready for and going to work. They spend 50 to 60 hours working. That seems high, but it's probably counting work at the office and work at home. And then you have about 17 to 27 hours for God, for family, for friends, and church. And these are rather interesting statistics because this helps us to better understand life and better understand ministry when you're looking for people to volunteer. You know, most of their 168 hours per week is used up in other activities. And that's okay. We don't need to be negative about that. We need to understand it and work within that context and do the best that we can. Then I would share a slide like this, and this is a Canadian Christian statistic slide. 78% of people in Canada consider themselves to be Christian. 85% have never read the entire Bible. It's higher than that now. Remember, this is 2004. 37% say they read the Bible other than at church. So 37, I'd say that's far less now. And then 35% say they've never read the Bible at all, ever. And it's much higher than that now. 20% say they read the Bible regularly. Well, the reality is, in Western Canada, only 20% of the population attends church, period, once a month. It's declined, so that would be a lower number even in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And then 1% say that the Bible has truly changed their life. So most people do not know what the Bible says. Most people have never read the Bible through. And so we issue a challenge to folks and say, would you like to have a life-changing experience with God? Would you like to take the time to listen to or read through the Bible? And when I first did this program many years ago, it was all on cassette. So I guess I'm showing my age a little bit. And so we showed all the different activities that happen around the clock. And we asked people to make a commitment. I'm taking the time to read or listen through my Bible. And we had a sign-up card. Yes, I want to participate in Route 66 Bible reading program beginning January 14, 2014. Name, phone number, email. I would like to order the Bible on cassette or CD. And that's all changed today. New International Version dramatized. King James Version dramatized. These were the options that people had. And then when I handed out these cards, I had a church congregation of about 250. My goal was to have over 100. The goal was to have 125 who would sign up. In the beginning, as a result of the sermon, only 55 signed up. We then sent out a letter to everyone and an email. And here's what it said. Pastor Dave has thrown down the gauntlet and challenges the members of the Aldergrove Church with what could be the most important New Year's resolution of all. That is to listen to or read through the entire 66 books of the Bible in 26 weeks. Why don't you join the 55 plus individuals who have accepted the challenge so far? Participants will either listen to or read the scriptures for 20 minutes per day beginning January the 1st, 2004. The entire group will begin in Genesis chapter 1 and support each other through the Route 66 Bible reading program by coming out to the church on Wednesday evenings beginning the 14th of January to discuss and share what they have been learning. This is an awesome opportunity to grow spiritually and to truly read through the entire Bible. Pastor Dave's goal is to have at least 100 people participating in this Route 66 Bible reading program. Why don't you sign up today? And we had 125 people sign up. That's 50% of the church. Now remember, out of the remaining 50% of the church, many of them are children. And they participated too, because mom and dad would read the Bible to the kids for family worship. So that number probably hit 200 members in the church, 200 attending people out of the 250 that were attending. So this was a massive Bible reading program in our congregation. And this is the schedule that you were asking about. And what does the 66 books of the Bible say about God? What do the 66 books of the Bible say about us? On January the 14th, they were supposed to have read to the end of the book of Genesis. 1 week later, January the 21st, they should have read all of Exodus. Another week, they should have read all of Numbers and Joshua and all the way down through until we came to June the 23rd, when we would have a wrap-up celebration, and then I'll jump ahead and I'll come back. We would hand out a certificate that said, Route 66, congratulations from the Alder Grove Seventh-day Adventist Church to John Jakovac Sr. on the completion of reading through the Bible. Faith comes from listening to this good news, the good news about Christ, Romans 10:17 from today's Living Bible. I signed it, and it was dated June the 30th, 2004. Now, how do you conduct a meeting? I had the book of Genesis, and I divided everything up in my mind, and I said, okay, Genesis chapter 1, the folks are going to ask some creation questions. You better be ready, Pastor Dave, to answer as best you can some creation questions. Some Sabbath questions in chapter 2, and soul questions. Questions about the fall in chapter 3 of Adam and Eve. Questions about Cain and Abel and the flood questions. And so I began to prepare. Questions about the Tower of Babel and languages. Questions about Abraham, about Hagar. Questions about Sodom and Gomorrah. I was listing all the potential questions that people might ask me. I didn't present this to them. I was just using this as my outline to prepare for whatever I thought might come up. And 98% of the questions that came up, I had already studied and had written notes down in front of me to answer these questions. And so people were excited to come. Number one, they were excited to come because most of our Seventh-day Adventist members have not taken the time to read through the Bible together in a 6-month period. Secondly, I said it's going to be a free-for-all. You can come and ask whatever question you want based on the book of Genesis. Anything that comes to your mind, you come and ask it, and we'll do our best to answer it as your pastor, and the collective group will have a discussion and answer it together. And if we don't know the answer right away, we'll say, you know something, that's a great question. We don't really have an answer for you this week, but we're going to study it, and we'll try to have an answer next week. And if I needed to, I'd make a telephone call to the Biblical Research Institute or to a professor at Andrews or whatever I needed to do to have an answer to that question for next week. So people were coming with an expectation and an anticipation, and this is what happened to us back in 2004, 250 people attending, and probably 200 of them reading through the Bible. You asked, I answered. Someone else asked a difficult question, I guess, and it's this. How do you help the young adults in our church who are working outside the church in the community to live out their beliefs. How do you help young adults in our church? And the person who asked the question said, many of our young adults don't want to attend anymore. There's a gap in our churches in that age group. And it's a very good question. All I can tell you is what I have done in reaching and ministering to young adults. First of all, young adults as a generation, millennials, if we want to call them that, they want to be able to express their religious beliefs in their generation, just like I, as a baby boomer, want to express my religious beliefs in the context of my age group, just as the seniors in our church want to express their belief system in their generation. And so at Church in the Valley, we've given our young adults an opportunity to participate and to express their beliefs in their own age group. What does that mean? We do not sing in our congregation just hymns from the hymnal, because our young adult group wants to sing some modern songs that they have become accustomed to, that they love to sing and listen to on their phones and in their cars and so on. And so we created a blended worship service where we sing hymns and we sing new modern songs. And so I will have some of my seniors come and they'll say, I don't like these new modern songs. And I say, well, what do you like? They say, I like hymns. And I said, didn't we sing hymns for you? They say, no. And I say, no, wait a minute. Last week we sang Blessed Assurance, Jesus is Mine, out of the hymn book, number 462. And yes, we sang number 100, Great is Thy Faithfulness. So I said, what's the problem? Oh, I don't like new songs. Wait, yes. But you like hymns. Didn't we sing hymns for you? Yes. Well, why won't you allow us to sing some new songs for the younger people? Well, I guess it's okay. And then I say to the young people say, well, we just don't like all hymns. Well, what do you like to sing? We like to sing some newer songs for our generation. Okay? Well, we will sing some newer songs for your generation. But we will also sing hymns for folks who are older. And so this is how I share with people. And as long as there is some way that older folks feel comfortable worshiping and younger folks feel comfortable worshiping, we move forward with a blended worship service, and that gives our young adults an opportunity to feel that they are heard, to feel that they are able to participate, and they want to come because they feel that they are being relevant and modern. Another way that we involve young adults in our church is to understand that young adults, millennials, love to serve. They have a different thought pattern about service than maybe baby boomers do and older folks do. They want to be involved in touching people's lives. And so when we do our single mom's oil change, the majority of the people who now come are young adults. It's the young adults who are vacuuming and washing the vehicles, and they love to do it. They want to serve. This is part of the millennial mindset. And they want to serve in ways that make a difference now. They want to give in different ways their offerings than the baby boomers and the older generation. So we provide opportunities to involve young adults in these kinds of ways so that it is their church just as much as it is a baby boomer's church or someone who is a senior. Everyone has an opportunity to be a part. We do the same thing for children. You know, when you are 9 years of age and you're a little boy It's kind of hard to sit there for an hour or an hour and a half, or in your culture, possibly, at least in mainland China, when we were in other locations, we saw that they attend church all day. Well, it's kind of hard for a little boy to sit through sermon after sermon after sermon. And so for families that have needed, we have a children's ministries pastor who has a children's worship service. And they do a fantastic job, and they sing, and when they sing, they jump up a little bit, and they sing loud, and they are children. But Jesus said, "Suffer the little children to come unto me, and forbid them not, for such is the kingdom of God." And so we have families that come, single moms, they have 3 children. Single moms are with their children 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They need a break. They can go worship with the adults. The children can go into children's church and learn about Jesus. In fact, I've discovered that the children in our children's church learn more about Jesus than probably the adults, because after they sing and they hear the sermon, they get into small groups and they debrief. They talk about what they've learned, and they leave knowing a key word from the Bible. And so I hope that that answers the question a little bit about the Bible reading program and about engaging young adults. One of the largest groups that we now have in our church is young adults. We have a young adult Sabbath school, that class that meets, and there would be 40 for sure, maybe 50 of them that are now coming and attending, and they have their own class. They have their own small group activities during the week. They play basketball together. They have a knitting group. They have 2 or 3 Bible study groups happening during the week. And they are an integral part of the church. And then the next step that we've taken is we've involved them in leadership. They're on the church board. We have a young adult elder. And so we've given them leadership, and we've allowed them to feel this is our church as well. Well, we're going to shift gears from answering your questions to going into presentation number 7. The 7th stage in our process of building a church of passionate believers is anchoring the new approaches into the culture of the church. The next slide says, "Are you fostering a ministry culture that will last?" Changing the culture in an organization takes a Herculean effort over many years, but it can be done, and it is through these efforts that real lasting change takes root. And so, 5 keys to anchoring new approaches into the culture. Number 1, we celebrate the success of new approaches. And so every week at Church in the Valley, I stand up in front of our congregation and I say, "Thank you for attending Church in the Valley today, where we love God, love people, and serve the world." If you're a first-time guest or a second-time guest, I want to meet you today right after the service out at our welcome desk. And we have a special gift to give you. It is a gift and mug and a book that's entitled "No One Stands Alone." Because in this world of ours, if we really want to think about it, no one does very well on their own. And we're a community of believers here, and we're worshiping together, and we invite you to join us as a part of Church in the Valley. We have a lot of special events that happen at Church in the Valley, and so take a look at our clip this week at CIV. You see, it highlights young adults.
Hey everyone, Tanya here. Glad you joined us today. Here's what's happening this week at Church in the Valley. Now actually, let's start off with what happened recently. Our day camps have been a huge hit. This last week we had our largest camp yet with 42 kids registered for Animal Camp 2. We had special guests such as the reptile guy, ooh, God, I wasn't here, radical raptors, and even a nose-worked dog. Take a look.
So did you see how her body came back so that she came back to it? That's what we look for, and that's how we know when our dogs are going to tell us.
My favorite part of animal camp was the tiger. Did you know that tigers are bold?
My favorite part about animal camp was the water slide.
My favorite part of animal camp was the rumble, and I made new friends. My favorite thing was at animal camp was holding tarantulas and seeing all the snakes.
My favorite part was seeing the snakes and the owls.
We still need supplies for How Stuff Works camp, especially small gas engines for kids to take apart. So give us your old broken lawnmower, weed whacker, or any small engine you are willing to donate. We also need more cell phones, computers, power tools, or any other small machines to disassemble. Please bring your donated items.
Yes.
You're welcome to join us for a special church picnic in the park today after our service. If you're a guest and didn't come prepared, don't worry, we've got you covered. Everyone else, though, please bring your delicious food to share with others to Gardner Park in West Abbotsford. Maps are available at the Welcome Center. Can you believe that summer vacation is almost over? As a teacher, I can't wait for school to start. We're having a work bee to make our school look beautiful for our students next Sunday, August 27th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. All ages are invited. Bring your cleaning supplies and garden tools for fun times. Lunch will be provided. We're looking forward to a special weekend on September 15th and 16th with Dr. Timothy Jennings. That weekend, we'll discover how our spiritual beliefs change our brain wiring, our physical health, and even which genes are turned on or turned off. Mr. Jennings has written a book called The God-Shaped Brain, which has gotten the attention of thousands. I really recommend for you to put this on your calendar, September 15th and 16th. Hey, thanks for joining us today. We couldn't possibly tell you everything that's going on here at CID in this video, so I wanted to tell you about our attractive email newsletter that goes out every Thursday. If you're not receiving this and you'd like to, please leave your email with us at the Welcome Center in the atrium, and we'll add you to the group. Pastor Dotsy will be giving us a message called No Longer Slaves to Fear. I'm Tanya, and this is what's happening here at Church in the Valley.
See how we had a brand new program at our church this summer called Day Camps. During the week from Monday through to Friday, children would come, and our children's ministries pastor and their team would run a camp all week long. One camp was called Animal Camp, and each day they got to touch and feel creatures, animals, and learn about them all week long. The second week, they were doing How Stuff Works camp. And so our members and people in the community donated. When I went into our garage, I saw like 30 lawnmowers. And so 9-year-old and 10-year-old kids are going to take apart lawnmowers and computers and cell phones, and they're going to learn how things work. And most of these children are not members of the Seventh-day Adventist Church at Church in the Valley yet. Oh, I love using that word yet. Because as we touch their lives and they go home and they tell mom and dad, we had an awesome time at Animal Camp. We had a wonderful time at How Stuff Works Camp. Then we need to go back. And so when we have our Family Fusion Fun Night beginning towards the end of September, We're going to invite all these families to come and join us now for Fusion Family Fun Night. And some of the families are going to come because their kids are going to say, we want to go. We want to go. We had so much fun. We want to go. And as families come and sit with other families who are members of our church, they make friendships. They get to know each other. And who knows where the Lord leads so that people can find their way into the Seventh-day Adventist Church. So every week we celebrate the success of the new approaches that we're using in ministry. Secondly, we include the new approaches on our annual calendar. And so every year we kick off the year with a spiritual emphasis. And another program that we used was 40 Days in the Word. And it was a series of putting people into the Bible again for 40 days. And so we always have a spiritual emphasis in January. In February, we'll have maybe a series on marriage and family tying into Valentine's. And in March, we'll have a stewardship series possibly. And we will do our Single Mom's Oil Change. In April, we will have an Easter series focusing on the life, death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus. We may have a cooking class. In May, every year, we do the Extreme Home Repair, the same month, every year. The members know it's anchored in the calendar. And you can go through every month of the year, and you'll find that every month we have programming that takes place on an annual basis. And so the second Single Mom's Oil Change that we do happens in October. The AOK Charity Golf Classic happens the second week of September. We are anchoring all the new approaches into the life and ministry of the church so that everyone knows what's happening. Everyone is moving forward together with an annual calendar of events. Thirdly, we mentor teams and leaders to anchor the new approaches. You notice that I get up and I do this week at CIV spoken, but there's always someone else who is on screen. And it allows members in the church to get to know new people as well. It gives anyone who wishes an opportunity to come and to share. And so we mentor leaders in anchoring the new approaches. And then our teams will bring our Extreme Home Repair team up on the platform of our church after the Extreme Home Makeover, and we'll thank them. And the entire congregation will applaud their 15 days of sacrifice for many of them, taking time away from their work, taking vacation, some of them. Others that come and go, but we honor them. We mentor and we train our teams and our leaders and anchor the new approaches into the culture of the church. And I'm skipping a few slides ahead so that we can get everything done on time for lunch. Fourthly, we develop systems to anchor the new approaches into the culture. And so, just like the human body, there are 8 systems. We have a circulatory system. We have a respiratory system. We have a skeletal system. Well, the church also needs to have healthy systems to work. And so there is a worship planning system. So our worship happens with excellence and planning. On Monday and Tuesday of the week, they are already planning for Sabbath. And our worship arts team is planning a month ahead so that we know what the sermon is going to be. We know who is going to be participating. We bring an elder up, and the elder will find individuals in our congregation who they will ask to assist with maybe a scripture or a prayer or to share the offering. We involve people, but it is all planned in advance. It does not happen in a side room on Sabbath morning. That, again, I say, is not God-honoring anywhere in the world. And so we have an evangelism system, and right on down through. The one that I'll mention the most is that we have a guest services or greeting system. If you were to come to Church in the Valley and to visit us, and you're welcome to come to our part of the world, when you come into Church in the Valley in the parking lot, there are people in the parking lot ready to greet you. Good morning. So glad you're here at Church in the Valley today. And so they have an initial contact out in the parking lot. And as you get to the front door, you will put your hand on the door. You may open it, or someone may open it for you and say, "Good morning, welcome to Church in the Valley. So glad you're here. Are you familiar with our facility?" And we say that because the answer is very important. If the person says no, they will generally say, "No, I'm not familiar. This is my first time here." That's exactly what we want to know, who a first time or second time guest is. And the greeter will say, "Well, wow, where are you visiting from?" They'll ask names and so on. Just in a minute's conversation, they will turn around and they will bring this first-time guest to an elder. That's where I use our elders the most, on the front line of ministry on Sabbath morning. And the elder will say, "Hey, my name is Dennis. So glad you're here. Where are you folks visiting from?" "Oh, we're from just here in Langley, in the Brookswood area." And Dennis says, "Wow, these people live locally, so I'm going to spend a few moments with them." And he says, "Hey, let me take you over to the welcome desk. We'd like to give you a gift." At the welcome desk, there's a card, very simple. Name, email, phone number. It can be filled out very quickly. And many of the guests, not all, will fill out that card and we'll give them the gift. Some will say, "No, I don't want to register right now." We'll take them, then the elder will go with them and take them anywhere in our building, they and their children, to a Sabbath school class or wherever they need to go. And as the elder is parting, he'll say, "We have a guest luncheon after the worship service, and we'd love for you to come. And we're going to have a great meal today." He might even tell them what's being served. And he said, "You don't have to worry about not knowing anyone. I'm going to be at the luncheon, and we know each other already. I'd love to get to know you better." And so the guests will worship. Their children may be in children's church. They'll come and the food will be already prepared. They will see it. They don't even have to go into another room. In our atrium, there's a section that is there. They can smell the food as they're leaving. And because sometimes they'll say, "Oh, well, we need to go. What do you think, honey?" And "It smells good. Let's get over there and have some food." And we get to know them a little bit more. And the elders do that. And then as the guests are leaving, there will be someone to say, "Thank you for being at Church in the Valley today," because as they're leaving, the greeting is equally as important as when they're arriving. The elder will then take that information, bring it back to the welcome desk. The welcome desk will bring that information to our communications director, a young adult that we've hired on a part-time basis, and there will be an email that will go out after Sabbath on Saturday night thanking this family or these people for being at Church in the Valley, and there will be a $5 Starbucks gift card that goes out with that, thanking them for being at Church in the Valley. And then on Tuesday, all of these names come to our pastoral staff meeting, our quarterback meeting we call it, and we will look at those names and we will divide them up. Our young adult pastor will take the young adult names, the children's names where there are families with kids. The children's pastor will take the names. I will take the adult names, and we will make a telephone call and we'll say, "Thank you so much for being at Church in the Valley. We really enjoyed having you. We're just touching base to say hello. And if there's anything that we can do for you, you know where we are. We look forward to having you again this week if you can. And if you'd like to be on our church emailing list for this week at CIV, we're happy to do that. Would you like to be on it?" If they say sure, we check that name and they will get an email from us every Thursday. And then we have a database that we have to invite people to upcoming events. That is our greeting guest services system. And every single aspect of the church needs to have a healthy system so that when people come through the doors, we are ready to receive them. And if I can give you an example, Ed and I were on a tour in Beijing, and they took us to several places. And places that we weren't familiar with. We went to Peking Duck. Okay? We were on a tour. We toured the Ming Dynasty tomb and so on. And after that, they wanted to sell everyone on the bus. You're familiar with this product. So they took us to Peking Duck. Well, we are vegetarians, so that didn't fit for us, but we noticed the system. You get off the bus, you go in this door, and there's someone with a microphone, and they're speaking to you and giving you details. Then you go down the hall, and you're in a room, and you go all around and come out the other side, and people have a system for the purchase of the products associated with Peking duck. There was 2 other places. We went to a store that sold jade, right? Jade products. And then another one that sold candy and cookies. And you should see all of the people buying the products, especially the candy and the cookies. But this business had a system for moving people in the door, through the building, and out again. Well, if that can happen in the business world, shouldn't we not learn from that? And say, maybe in the church world, we have a way of greeting people, tracking people, thanking people, and putting them on our interest list so that in the future we can reach out to them for the Lord Jesus Christ. Another innovative thing that we were involved in doing, and we stumbled upon it, but it transformed our church, was one of the members gave me a book to read. It was called Kingdom Assignment. You see, everyone has a kingdom assignment. I don't know if you realize that or not. God calls each of us to be on assignment to grow His kingdom. Every time you pray the Lord's Prayer, are you aware of what you are praying? We say, hallowed, our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Now, when you pray those words, you need to understand that what you're saying is, our Father which art in heaven, holy is your name, O God. And then you're saying, oh God, I want your kingdom and all of its power in heaven to come down here to this earth. And I am giving you permission for that to happen through and in me. I'm giving you permission, God, to use my mouth, my hands, my feet, my eyes, my ears. I'm giving you permission to put me on kingdom assignment. So don't ever pray the Lord's Prayer again if you're not willing to be on kingdom assignment, because that's what it is. And so we had an opportunity to share that with our congregation, this kingdom assignment concept. And then we preached through a series of sermons. One of them was on the parable of the talents. You know the story, the parable of the talents. One individual was given a talent and it multiplied 100 times. Another was given a talent and it multiplied 60 times. Another one took his talent and buried it. And God was not happy with the third individual. Well, we preached this sermon and we said, well, how are we going to drive this home? And so we decided to give 30 individuals in our church a $100 bill to represent a talent. Now, when have you ever gone to church and the church gave you money when you left? Has that ever happened? Is it a good idea for the treasurer maybe to hear and so on, right? My church members were in shock. You mean to say I came to church today and I'm leaving with an extra $100? Yes, but they were on kingdom assignment. They had 90 days to pray over the $100, to ask God to guide them to a acts of kindness ministry anywhere in the world. And then they had to multiply that $100, grow it, just like the parable of the talents. And then they were to do an act of kindness for someone and come back and give a report. We gave away $3,000 that day. My finance committee said, "You're crazy. Why are you giving away good money?" And we were like $60,000 behind in our church budget. Because as Pastor Ed has said, we get a lot of our money in December. And so they said, "We're behind and you're giving money away." And I said, "It doesn't matter. Give me the money." So they gave me the money. They found it. We gave it away. Well, the $3,000 multiplied to over $75,000 in projects all around the world. And our congregation, 90 days later, I believe it was on December 9, the members had, you make these large mock checks with the amount that they raised, and they gave it away to people in the community who we invited to church. Gave it away. And one of the stories was of our young adult Sabbath school class. They took $100 and they said, what are we going to do? They prayed over it. They heard a news story that said there was a little girl 800 kilometers away who had leukemia, and she was 2.5, 3 years of age. They said, we're going to help Emily and her family because her mom and dad could no longer work in the community they lived in. They had to move to Vancouver and go to Children's Hospital in Vancouver. And so they didn't have any funds. And so the young adult group decided to help them. They decided that they were going to play football, what we call soccer in Canada, for 24 hours. And they would get people in the community to sponsor them every hour. If they played for 5 hours, they received a donation for 5 hours. If they played 24 hours and someone sponsored them $10, they would have received $240. Well, when everything happened, they raised $25,000 to help Emily's family. And everyone in the church was involved and excited about this. And they were listening to the stories, watching what happened, and our church has never been the same. In fact, some of the Kingdom Assignment projects still continue today, a decade later. And so we want to show you this clip. I'm going to go in there and we're going to show you a short version of it. It's only 5 minutes long, but I think we'll show you 2 or 3 minutes of it. May it inspire you with possibilities and potential through acts of kindness. And then may you have a wonderful lunch.
It's not all about getting out of this world and making it to heaven. That's not the message of the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ. The message of the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ is to pray to God and ask Him to bring everything down to this. You feel the Holy Spirit of God speaking to you. I want you to come and receive. I believe that as we pray, Thy kingdom come, Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. There's going to be acts of kindness happen that we never do to people that we have to get. How do you multiply $3,000 into $50,000 or more in just 9 days? How do you inspire ordinary individuals, housewives, mechanics, teachers, nurses, and businessmen to do something significant to touch the lives of those around them? The Kingdom Assignment Journey, that's how. On September the 9th, I challenged our congregation to realize that God is calling everyone who is a disciple of Jesus to accept a Kingdom Assignment. We challenged 120 individuals to make a difference in the world around them through accepting the Kingdom Assignment challenge.
It's a cloud day for a game of soccer. But these players don't mind a bit. We have some players that are playing 24 hours, if you can believe it, and others who are just playing for an hour, 2 hours, 6 hours. And we're going straight from now, 10 a.m. until 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, rain or shine.
Their inspiration is a 2.5-year-old girl named Emily from Quesnel, who was diagnosed with leukemia in June. The little girl is in Vancouver with her family, receiving chemotherapy at Children's Hospital. The hope is to raise at least $15,000 to help her family with travel and living expenses.
We have had an amazing response from the community. Amazing. I would say more than half of our players are just from communities all over. In Langley, Abbotsford, Maple Ridge, just everywhere. It's fabulous.
There is only one thing that really matters to each of us who participated in the journey, and that is that we might hear those words of Jesus. Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Enter into the joy of the Lord.
Many, many people were involved. It was a wonderful spiritual experience. And the parable of the talents came home. At the end of the year, do you think we reached our church budget? Yes, we did. No problem. Finance committee was relieved. And we gave away on December 9 over $75,000 freely to the community. And you saw this was the news television station that was aired all across Canada. And they responded, and someone came from the Vancouver Stock Exchange and wrote an article about us and said, what would happen if businessmen would be able to take their money and take $3,000 and turn it into $75,000 in 90 days and then give it away? If all the businessmen were to do that, they'd say it would be some Christmas in Vancouver, British Columbia. And so people in our community know about acts of kindness. They love acts of kindness. They support acts of kindness. It can happen anywhere in the world because Jesus preached, Jesus taught, and Jesus served the world. And through those three methods, many people came, as we shared in our devotional this morning. Many people came and wanted to be in His presence. And the same thing happens in a church of passionate believers.